What's up, you guys? My name is Graham, and this is a review of my 2008 Lotus Exige S240. By the way, just a quick background. Lotus was the brand that got me into cars to begin with. Before I saw a Lotus, I didn't give a shit about cars. Bought my first Lotus in 2009. It was a 2006 Chrome Orange Lotus Elise, and I loved that car. This car now I've had for about 3 years. I bought it in beginning of 2014. Anyway, long story short, Lotus is really sentimental for me. I love the car, I love the brand, so I'm going to do my best to explain this car, review it, and give an unbiased opinion about it. So for the most part, this car is pretty much entirely stock. The only thing I had done to it, I had the stripe down the center, I had the brakes painted in yellow, I had the side markers tinted in the front, in the back, and then I also have the windows tinted at 35% on the sides, and then I also have 50% tint in the front windshield. And then over to the back, some people like this, some people don't. I kind of dig it. I think it gives like a stormtrooper look to the car, but I have the taillights tinted, and then I also have the Lotus emblems in black as well. This is what I thought was kind of funny. I actually don't run license plates on this car, but I did get a metal replica license plate. This was a Joker's car in Suicide Squad. It's actually metal and it's full on stamped. So I thought it was funny. I just put this on the car instead of running a real license plate. So other than that, that's pretty much all I've done to the car. Now, depending on how long I have it, eventually I may want to do a carbon fiber splitter, a carbon fiber side skirt, and then carbon fiber side scoops. But then I have a feeling if I do that, I'm gonna probably want the carbon fiber wing, and then it's just never ending from there. Otherwise, I think I'm just gonna keep it like this for the most part. So you're able to open the engine from pressing in this. There is a little lever right here somewhere. Opens up the trunk, and then you can see the engine and some of the trunk space here. So this is a 1.8 liter engine. It gives off about 240 horsepower with about 170 pounds of torque. And this is a lot, by the way, for this car because it weighs just about 2,000 pounds, so it's more than enough power. I mean, this car just propels you so quickly. I really love absolutely everything about it, and what I also really like about this too is that it's so different from everything else off the road. And especially in Los Angeles, where Ferraris and Lamborghinis tend to be a dime a dozen, I rarely ever see another Lotus. And when you do, it's a big deal. We usually honk at each other, we'll wave. This brand has such a great community behind it that everyone tends to know each other, which I think is phenomenal. This car is also really easy to maintain. For the most part, all I've done to this car is just an oil change, and that's it. And even the oil change I was able to do myself. It took about 2 hours, super easy to do, really easy to learn. Other than that, for the most part, this car is essentially a Toyota, so nothing really breaks. It's been pretty bulletproof. I've had this car 3 years, and again, all I've done to it are oil changes. That's it. The car has been perfect. The other great thing about the car is it really doesn't depreciate in value. I bought this 3 years ago, and last year I actually got an offer that was $5,000 higher than why I purchased the car, because they only made about 144 of these. Very few of them are out there. It's a hard car to find, so the values tend to stay about the same. Even my Lotus Elise, I bought it around 30 grand, and I sold it 2 years later with 7,000 more miles on it for about $30,000. So essentially, this car is just a savings account where you just put your money in there, you hold it there, and if it goes up in value, great. Otherwise, you're gonna get about what you paid for it, which is awesome. So essentially, this is like driving a free car that all you have to do is pay for gas, insurance, oil changes, maybe some other little modifications you want to do to it, but otherwise, it's like a free car, which is so cool. So now here are a few of the downsides of the car. These are things that I think, you know, it sort of is what it is. There's really not much Lotus can do about it. First of all, there's really no storage space in the car at all. This is it. This is your entire cabin. You have a little bit of space behind the seat. You have some sort of net there that's good for maybe holding a few papers. If you don't have a passenger, this is actually a lot of space if you have groceries or want to carry something. Then I also tend to put my phone here. I guess I have a few iPods, a garage clicker. It's enough for some little knickknacks. This is your trunk space. It's pretty small. It's enough for really just a car cover. I put a bag here, maybe a few hats. There's not a lot of space. And then I have no idea why Lotus did this, but there is a trunk release right here. So I guess if you're trying to kidnap a child and you try to like stuff them back here, it's not really gonna work because they just press this could open and then your child escapes. So not that good. Then speaking of storage space, check this out. Lotus was smart enough in 2008 to add one of my favorite things to the car, which is a cup holder. Now, my 2006 Elise never had a cup holder, so what I would do is if I had a Starbucks cup or like any sort of cup, I just try to place it there and then hope it didn't splash around. Lotus got smart, 2008, they added this. This is the best addition to the car I think they've ever done. It is the most useful thing. So this is the sort of attention that the car gets all the time. Oh no, I don't know what this is.
How you doing?
Good.
So are you a celebrity? What's your name? Hey, well guys, where's your celebrity?
That's hilarious. So one other thing I forgot to mention about this car is just how much attention it gets. It gets a lot of attention and it's pretty much all the time. Every time I'm driving the car, it's hard not to notice it. So obviously a lot of people want to talk about it, but you just get some weird people that show up that come out of the woodwork when you're driving a car like this. And you just get some really oddball questions too.
Oh baby, we got. Take a picture.
Yeah, there you go.
Sit on it?
No.
No. Just got a whole bunch. Thank you so much.
Now, speaking of not a lot of storage space, this is not a good car if you're really tall or fat. I found that I have friends that are over 6 feet tall and it's very difficult for them to get in the car. And when they get in the car, if they're in the driver's side, their knees usually hit the steering wheel and sometimes their head hits the top of the car. Oh my God, don't tell me again. Oh my God, another one. It's also such a low car that you have to be super careful about going over speed bumps or taking a driveway the wrong way. This is my lesson right here. I was super careful with the car, but one miscalculation was this entire thing. That was just a driveway and I was maybe going about 1 mile per hour. The other thing, because the car is so low, is that when you're going into a parking structure, taking a parking ticket is actually really difficult because usually the parking ticket thing is like a foot above where you are. So you have to roll down the window and then kind of lean out the window to take any sort of parking tickets. But the upside of this was that this car is actually lower than some of those parking things that come down. I don't know what you call them. I'm just gonna call them a parking thing. But every now and then you get a parking thing that's higher up than the car, and it's very easy. You don't even need the ticket. You just kind of go underneath the little parking swingy thing. So the layout to everything when you're sitting in the car is pretty basic. Obviously here you have your controls for the windows. Both of these control the lights. So obviously lights are on, lights are off. Press this button, the engine starts. Then everything on the dash is really just what you need. A huge gauge for RPM, and then how fast you're going. That's it. That's really all you need. Down here you have your air settings, obviously hot, cold. This turns on the AC, this recirculates the air, and this is how much air you want. Then these open up, you can kind of turn them as needed. And you have a bit of storage space here. You know, again, not much. This is what the car is really all about though. It's just about having the best time possible on the road while driving. That's it. This car was built just to drive. The steering handles perfectly, by the way. When you aim it in a direction, it just goes in that direction, and it's so responsive as well. Now, since this is a 2008, they upgraded the brakes with AP Racing brake calipers, which do such a good job at stopping the car. You just barely press them and you come to a screeching halt. It actually takes some getting used to. The downside of the brakes that I have, they get a little squeaky when they get warmed up, but fuck it, it's just a part of owning the car that I love. The acceleration too is just incredible. You press it and you go in just a quick instant. And that's the thing too, this car weighs about 2,000 pounds, so it doesn't take a lot of power to propel this car really, really fast. Also, it's just really hard to drive this car without smiling. Like, it's just so much fun to drive. And this car is almost like my therapy in the sense of if I have a bad day, if I'm stressed out, whatever, I get in the car and everything else disappears. It's just me, the road, the car, the sounds. It's really an experience unlike anything else. You don't even need music in a car like this, just because the engine is so amazing. When you hit second cam, oh my God. Even the exhaust on this car, by the way, is amazing. I upgraded this from the stock exhaust, which is pretty quiet, to a stage 2 exhaust. And I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite exhausts ever. Now, it's a little drony when you go at low speeds, but when you hit second cam, the whole exhaust just opens up, and it's like the symphony of sounds of the car. It's pretty cool. Another great thing about this car too is that it gets really good gas mileage. Even when I'm abusing the car and driving it really fast at really high RPMs, I can still get about 15 miles per gallon. Now, compare that with a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, anything with a V8, V10, V12, this car is like a Prius compared to those. And when I drive this on the freeway, it's even better. I can usually get about 25 to 30 depending on how fast I'm driving it and at what speed, which is amazing for a car like this. And so now to some of the downsides of the car. When I'm driving it at low RPMs and low speeds like this, like I'm doing it to make this video so you can actually understand me, it's not that difficult to hear each other have a conversation in the car. But as soon as you accelerate, the car gets a lot louder and you have to pretty much scream to have any sort of conversation in the car like this. I really have to raise my voice if I'm trying to have any sort of conversation in the car just because it's so loud. Now, part of that is my fault because I have a really loud exhaust on the car, but there's really not a lot of insulation between the engine that's like 7 inches behind me to the car, so you really have to yell. This is not a car to have any sort of conversations in just because of how loud it is. Plus, honestly, I'm not really sure you'd even want to have a conversation in this car because it's all about driving. And frankly, I'd rather just listen to this engine than having someone else talk next to me. So maybe that's a good thing. It's also a really intimate car. The whole cabin here is pretty small, so when I have someone sitting next to me, I basically have the shifter up against their leg. So every now and then I may accidentally grab their leg or something that's over here. Not my fault, it's just there's not a lot of room here. And you can see as well, I'm barely reaching and I can touch the passenger side door. It's really small. Actually, I think cozy is the word that I'm looking for. It's really cozy. Another downside of this car is that everything kind of rattles and squeaks. And I think it's just a British car thing, and it's a Lotus thing, and it's something you just have to accept. But for instance, my dash tends to squeak when it's parked in the sun for longer than like an hour. There's also a bunch of little rattles and shakes throughout the car. And again, it's something you really just have to live with. It's not that big of a deal. If you're expecting Porsche-like luxury quality, this is definitely not the car. It's more of like a go-kart in terms of the build quality, but it's just super fun to drive, so I feel like that almost makes up for all the little rattles and squeaks and everything that goes on with the car. Another downside is that you feel pretty much every bump on the road, and it makes you feel like your car is falling apart. I'm just gonna hit one of these little things here, and you feel it. I mean, it's really loud when I'm driving over these things. Even potholes feel like the car is just falling apart, and it shakes you to your core. Like you feel any sort of bump in your bones, like it really just goes right through you. But on the other side, just suspension is really stiff. It's really great for handling, so that's kind of the trade-off. So I actually pulled over to the side of the road to show you how difficult this one was. There's no power steering, and this is great when you're going at high speeds just because it's so responsive. But when you're trying to turn around going like 1 mile per hour, you really have to use a lot of force to turn this wheel. So I'm going to show you. By the way, I also can't see out of the back, so that's another thing. All right, watch this. Watch me turning the wheel. Fuck! There you had it. That was my workout. Okay, so as you can notice from doing that turn, I can't see out of the back at all. This back is completely blocked by the supercharger air intake, and that's the roof scoop that comes through the side. It pulls air into the engine in the back. I can't see shit out of the back of the car, so it's essentially, this is useless. I don't know why they have a rear view mirror, but let me show you what I do to work around it. This is it. That's my entire view. Again, there is my entire view through the back. So what I do instead, I shift the mirrors a little bit more inward, and that gives me a way to see a bit of the back of the car. And I'm sure I have a huge blind spot back there, but for the most part, this tends to do the trick. Quick side note, these are sun visors, and they're pretty useless. I don't know why they're in here. They don't really do anything. There's not even a mirror. Like, if I want to check myself out, I can't even do that with these. In this car too, you have to be pretty careful about making sure people see you, especially on the freeway. It's not uncommon for someone to want to merge into you just because you're so low to the ground. Especially SUVs, you're usually just below their mirrors, so when they're turning or when they're changing lanes, most of the time they can't see you. So it's super important not to be in any car's blind spot. So another thing that people tend to ask me is, Graham, does the car help you get girls? And the answer is no. It doesn't at all. Mostly this car just attracts young boys. Like, to be completely honest, those are really the only people that are really into the car. This car is probably one of the best values for the money out there if you're just looking for such a raw, exciting driving experience. And again, not many people have these cars, so it's super unique to see them on the road. And it's just so much fun. Like, watch this. Oh my god, I just love it. And it just brakes so fucking well. Alright, I'm just gonna have some fun here. Oh my god, everything about this car is just fuck. As always, you guys, thank you so much for watching my videos. It really means a lot to me to see how much you guys are enjoying this. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. When I reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving someone free coaching for life, $100 cash, and then $100 to whatever charity they want. Plus, I'm just going to be releasing a lot of cool stuff, so make sure you're subscribed. Like it if you enjoy this content. Feel free to comment down below with absolutely anything. And thank you again for watching. Until next time. That is crazy. No? Wow. That's neat.
Go for the moon. Step like a Go for the moon. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid and all.